let's get the administrative details out of the way. Members are reminded that they must be visible on the screen within the software platform for the purposes of identity verification. Members must continue to use the software platform's video function while attending the hearing unless they experience connectivity issues or other technical problems that render the member unable to fully participate on camera. If you're experiencing technical difficulties, God bless you, do the best you can. Otherwise, don't bother us. However, you might contact the committee staff for assistance. I'm not likely to get it, but give it a try. When you are recognized, video will be broadcast via the television, internet feeds. You will be recognized as normal for questionings, but if you want to speak at another time, you must seek recognition verbally. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and remember to unmute when you do want to speak. Please be aware that there is a slight lag between when you start speaking and when the camera shot switches to you. Please remember to keep the software platform's video function on for the entirety of the time you are attending this hearing. If you leave for a short period for reasons other than joining a different proceeding, please leave your video functions on. If you are leaving to join a different proceeding or will be absent for a significant period, you should exit the software platform entirely and then rejoin when you return. Be advised that I've designated a committee staff member with a very big club to mute unrecognized members, microphones, and the member if necessary. Please use the platform's chat function to communicate with the staff regarding technical or logistic support issues. Finally, you will see a 5-minute countdown clock on the software platform's display. Please be obedient, and if necessary, we'll cut you off. Now, I think all of us have heard that, not with my annotated version, but with that out of the way, a couple of other administrative things. I was telling our participants that we do have votes this morning, a series of votes, 3 of them. I am going to recess this hearing at 11:45 and recommence at 12:15. That allows all of the members to stay with us until 11:45. Go to the floor, cast a vote, wait around a few moments, cast a vote on the final bill, and then return to the hearing. So at 11:45, we will break, recess, and then return at 12:15. The members can then carry on their responsibilities on the floor and return to their responsibilities with the hearing. So with that said, instructions out of the way, I'll read my opening statement. The Department of Defense Organic Industrial Base, which includes military services, depots, arsenals, shipyards, is a critical part of our national defense security enterprise. These facilities are essential for maintaining the complex ships, aircraft, and land systems of the Joint Force. The Organic Industrial Base must be postured to support today's requirements while remaining agile enough to respond to mobilization, national emergencies, and ever-changing platforms. I have significant concerns about the Organic Industrial Base's aging infrastructure and the capacity of these facilities to sustain the next generation of weapon systems and support surge requirements. The Government Accountability Office has found that more than half of the DoD's industrial base facilities are in poor conditions, including all 4 public shipyards. While the Navy has developed an ambitious shipyard infrastructure optimizational plan, which I understand they're about to change the name of, which would recapitalize the public shipyards over 20 years at a cost of some $21 billion. I'm concerned that the Navy will not dedicate the necessary resources to prioritize this effort, and that the 20-year time horizon is very long and probably too long to support a very changing fleet. The other services infrastructure modernization plans are in various stages of maturity, and I look forward to hearing about the status of these plans. As with the Navy's shipyard plan, these will require senior leadership commitment and sustained resources. Resources meaning money and attention to reach completion. Even as we look towards modernizing our facilities and equipment to support the next generation of weapon systems, we continue to rely on legacy platforms that will be serving well past their intended life cycles. I'm concerned that overly optimistic timelines for fielding new platforms leaves the Organic Industrial Base insufficiently prepared to service these legacy systems. As a result, the services pay a premium for old technology that is less capable, not fuel efficient, dependent on limited network of suppliers, and reliant on obsolete manufacturing processes. Amidst all of our modernization efforts, we cannot neglect to plan, resource, and implement the solutions needed to ensure our legacy equipment is available and safe for use. I'm going to just add to the statement here. I am very, very concerned that when we bring new equipment and platforms on, we're not planning properly for their ongoing maintenance. Finally, a strong workforce is also essential to the success or failure of the depot enterprise. The federal civil servants working on these facilities across the globe contribute unique skill sets that we cannot afford to lose. We must ensure that we can hire, train the next generation in a timely fashion, give them protection and rights they deserve for their services. Congress has granted various flexibilities to permit more timely hiring of qualified personnel and to better compete with the private sector. We must continue our oversight of these authorities to ensure that they're efficient, effective, and they uphold the competitive and merit-based principles that are a function and foundation of the civil service. Finally, for the past year has revealed unforeseen challenges for the organic industrial base, from pandemic preparedness to supply chains fragility. I look forward to hearing from our panel about how these organic industrial base is adapting to solve these and other questions. George Washington said that to be prepared for war is one of the most effective means of preserving the peace, and credible deterrence is indeed a central focus of the Readiness Subcommittee. A healthy organic industrial base is essential to our preparedness. I look forward to discussing how we can strengthen this key pillar of readiness today. So with that, I looked at the screen a moment ago, and there is my friend Doug Lamborn. I turn it over to you, Doug. Doug, your staff has instructions about the break that we'll be taking at 12:15. So go ahead, Doug.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you, Chairman Garamendi. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here today and for their testimony and service. The organic industrial base is a vital and important part of our readiness and ultimately our national security. The talented men and women who work in our nation's depots, arsenals, shipyards, and logistics complexes ensure that our warfighters have the equipment that they need when they need it and that it works as designed. Equipment that is more often than not well beyond its service life, but still performing vital missions. As our nation started to feel the impacts of COVID-19 this time last year, the organic industrial base also began tackling how to fulfill their mission while protecting the workforce. Each of the services dealt differently with the problem of touch labor that couldn't be conducted from home. And I look forward to hearing from each of our witnesses what they learned and how they are incorporating these lessons into their planning going forward. COVID also highlighted that this workforce is aging. These are highly skilled artisans with years of experience. I would like to hear from both of you how you are using your authorities to help hire and train the next, I would like to hear both how you are using your authorities to help hire and train the next generation, and also what we can do to help you be innovative in this area. We need to explore different ways to increase the supply of young people joining this skilled labor market to meet these growing demands. Not everyone needs a 4-year college degree, but the nation needs more men and women working in skilled trades. Another issue we see across the services is infrastructure that is not being invested in to maintain the current workload or prepare for modern systems or modern practices. Too often, these are areas that the services have taken budget risk, leaving us with facilities and utilities that were built over 50 years ago. The Navy has a particularly acute problem in this area. The GAO has assessed that all 4 public shipyards are in poor or failing condition with too few functional dry docks. Just last year, the Navy decided to scrap the fire-ravaged Bonhomme Richard, at least partially due to the lack of dry dock space needed to repair it. That we have so little trade space when it comes to the schedule should be concerning to us all. In response to these concerns, the Navy has put forward the Shipyard Infrastructure Optimization Plan, or SIOP, to invest $21 billion into the public shipyard's aging dry docks, equipment, and infrastructure. I look forward to seeing this year's budget and the resources that the Navy is committing to this area, because without real dollars, we can't make the progress needed. Finally, I would like to hear from the witnesses how you are managing your sustainment planning. While this committee has certainly talked about how it impacts carryover, and that is something we are still interested in, it also touches everything from training to budgets to hiring. Unfortunately, there aren't many easy answers here, but I know the chairman and I are both committed to working with you all to ensure that the organic industrial base has what it needs to continue to support our men and women in uniform. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Lamborn. I will now turn to our witnesses. Your written testimony is available to all the members and without objection will be part of the record. So ordered. We'll now start with Lieutenant General Dwayne Gamble, Deputy Chief of Staff, G4, United States Army. General.
Chairman Garamendi, Ranking Member Lamborn, and distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on the Army's Organic Industrial Base. Your support of our OIB, of Army readiness and all Army initiatives is absolutely critical to our success. As we described last May in my virtual update to your subcommittee, we've stayed on track with all our initiatives despite the COVID-19 operating environment. As we continue to operate in this environment, the execution of our mission and the safety of our workforce has been our top two priorities. At the outset of COVID, we immediately implemented CDC guidelines for all our facilities. We maximized the use of personal protective equipment, and we placed high-risk personnel on administrative or weather and safety leave. These actions helped our workforce stay safe, but as importantly, helped our depots and arsenals continue to produce readiness for our Army and our nation. At no time during the pandemic did any of our facilities shut down. In FY21, our OIB plans to execute over $8 billion of work to sustain and modernize weapon systems across our Army and across the other services, as well as to support foreign military sales. And to complete that work, our facilities will work approximately 14 million direct labor hours this year. I'd just like to compare that 14 million to the workload levels of 2002 and 2003, which were the front end of our war on terror. Direct labor hours that we plan this year is down from a wartime peak of 30 million direct labor hours. And so my point there is just to tell you that it is cyclical, the workload in our depots, but every direct labor hour is very important to maintaining the skills we need in our artisan workforce and the readiness our Army and our country needs. We believe this workload will preserve current fleet readiness and help modernize our weapon systems to get modern equipment to our units today. As you know, the work that is funded but not executed at the end of the fiscal year is defined as carryover. And since I first briefed this subcommittee in November 2019, we've worked with the Office of the Secretary of Defense and the other services to develop, and hopefully deliver, a carryover calculation pilot program, which is pending final approval from the Office of Secretary of Defense, that would allow us, the Army, to exclude material from our calculation. The simple reason for that is the Army's Enterprise Resource Planning System, our ERP, employs generally accepted accounting principles to achieve auditability. But unfortunately, that same ERP artificially inflates the Army's carryover by including the value of the repair parts that we've invested in to produce the readiness at our depots. The other services do not have that challenge. Excluding repair parts, today the Army has 6.22 months of carryover, right above the OSD threshold of 6 months of carryover. That, for comparison, is down from just a year ago when it was 10 months of carryover. But if we were to look through the lens of the current calculation, it would be interpreted as 8 to 9 months of carryover. But again, if we were to put apples to apples comparison with the other services, we'd have 6.22 months of carryover. Carryover is absolute paramount to bridging appropriations to helping smooth workflow and to keep our artisans hard at work building readiness across our Army. At the same time we execute our workload, the Army and our OIB must modernize for the future. And Chairman and Ranking Member, you both talked about the importance of the modernization of our OIB. As I've testified this committee before, we have World War II era facilities, and many of them are outdated for today's requirement, let alone the needs of the future force, as you described, Chairman. We spent more than $3 billion since 2009 to upgrade our facilities and infrastructure and operating environment to include building a new nitrocellulose facility at Radford Army Ammunition Plant, one of our single points of success or failure, depending on how we look at that. We're also working a new nitric acid facility at Holston Army Ammunition Plant. Both create a safer and more productive environment for our employees and for readiness. In FY21 alone, we're executing $800 million to make essential improvements and upgrades to our depots, arsenals, and ammo plants. The OIB has a long road, however, to becoming fully modernized, a fully modernized industrial base, but we are actively working to that end state, and we're executing the plan that I briefed this committee on November of 2019. While we execute that plan, we continue to update the plan to stay to keep pace with modern technology. And as we modernize our Army, we must ensure we modernize the OIB and the workforce, and that the workforce is highly trained and on the cutting edge of technology. Ranking Member Lamborn, you mentioned in your opening comments about the average age of the OIB workforce across the Department of Defense. I'm happy to report that the average age of the Army is now 46 years old across our whole industrial base. That is a rejuvenated workforce just in the last few years, and the authority we used to do that was granted by this committee. It's the direct hiring authority that we put to good use, bringing the average age of the workforce down. Those 22,000 skilled employees operating across our depots, arsenal, and ammo plants are absolutely the backbone of our country's readiness for the next war and our OIB. As you know, the Army's OIB is of COVID-19. I believe that's a testament to the dedication of our workforce and their commitment to our Army and our country. Key pieces of our workforce modernization plan are our partnerships with private corporations, our partnerships with universities, and our partnerships with technical colleges and technical programs in our high schools to provide skills and technological training and to connect with a talent pool to help us recruit the future workforce. In closing, I'd like to thank you and all the distinguished members of this committee, not only for your support to our OIB, your continued oversight of our execution, but for your service to our country. Our Army continues to execute workload, improve our infrastructure and facilities, and develop and employ a highly talented workforce. We seek your continued support and partnership in each of these areas to achieve the modernized ORB. The future of our Army and the future of our country depends upon, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, General. Now I'll turn to Vice Admiral William Galinas, Commander, Navy Sea Systems Command. Admiral, your turn.
Hey, Chairman Garamendi, Ranking Member Lamborn, distinguished lawmakers, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss our organic industrial base within the Navy. As this committee knows, the Navy has been executing the Shipyard Infrastructure Optimization Program since 2018. The SIOP will deliver the shipyards our Navy and our nation needs by upgrading and expanding principally our dry dock capacity, but also optimizing and improving our infrastructure and workflow within the shipyards, as well as recapitalizing obsolete equipment. When completed, our shipyards will be ready to service our fleet for generations to come. Our written testimony provides a glimpse and some detail into the SIOP highlights and the ongoing work. And overall, while I'm generally pleased with the progress we have made to date, I will tell you we have much to do, and I, along with you and many of your colleagues, want us and need us to move faster. To that end, I've challenged the SIOP Program Office to find ways to accelerate this execution timeline, and I look forward to sharing that information with the committee in the future as we come through this effort. While SIOP addresses the needed physical changes required in our public yards to keep our submarines and aircraft carriers in the fight, more work is required. We need to become more accurate and more efficient in our planning and the execution of our depot level availabilities for our submarines and aircraft carriers. Finally, we need to continue to build on our talented and dedicated workforce that we have within our public shipyards. I will tell you in no uncertain terms, we need now to expand the productive capacity of our naval shipyards, or we run the risk of not being able to perform the required maintenance and repair work for our nuclear-powered fleet, principally our submarines and aircraft carriers, a decade from now. To do this, we've taken a page out of the NAVAIR playbook and their successful execution of the Naval Sustainment System aviation in an effort to support our naval aviation enterprise. Leveraging the Navy's performance to plan effort that you've heard about, led by our Chief of Naval Operations and our Vice Chief, we have stood up our own Naval Sustainment System shipyard. And like NSS Aviation, NSS Shipyard combines the extensive use of data and data analytics. It targets areas of opportunity with transparency to highlight key problems to improve our outcomes. We're committed to doing this with a sense of urgency across our enterprise. NSS Shipyard is a significant departure from our previous practices. Leveraging the best commercial practices, we're incorporating these into our shipyards and embracing a new culture built on honest assessments, informed by data, and coupled with a bias toward action and a sense of urgency to drive process improvements. NSS Shipyard is still in its formative phase, but when you combine it with SIOP and a talented and trained workforce, our Navy will have the organic maintenance and repair capability and capacity now and in the future to support our submarine and aircraft carrier fleet to fight and to win in this area of great power competition. And while the work we're doing in our shipyards is a key effort, there is much more we are doing to improve our ability to generate readiness and sustain our force, including improving our planning and execution process, addressing material availability issues, expanding our use of condition-based maintenance, and working to improve access to critical technical data. I look forward to discussing this and many other topics with you. And again, I thank you for this opportunity to appear before the committee, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Admiral. We now turn to Vice Admiral Dean Peters, Commander, Naval Air Systems Command. So, Admiral Peters.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Lamborn, distinguished members. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss naval aviation and the health of our organic industrial base. Since day one in command, the NAVAIR industrial workforce and infrastructure have been my top priority, and I look forward to updating you on our progress. In conjunction with the Air Boss, Vice Admiral Weitzel, and the Deputy Commandant for Aviation, Lieutenant General Wise, we are systematically stabilizing naval aviation readiness for both the present and long term. And we've made significant progress in fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, increasing fleet mission capable rates by over 14%. That's an additional 330 mission capable aircraft for aircrew training and operations. A critical component, of course, is our organic maintenance capability, both intermediate level and depot level maintenance. This organic industrial base, typically called aviation depots, are known as Fleet Readiness Centers, or FRCs, in naval aviation, which I think is a more apt description. During a virtual roundtable with this subcommittee last May, I described a recovery plan for production impacts due to COVID-19, which had temporarily reduced our workforce and had also resulted in numerous material shortfalls. I'm pleased to report that through the efforts of Commander Fleet Readiness Centers, NAVSUP, DLA, and most importantly, each of the FRCs, we were able to exceed production requirements for aircraft and components and came within 1% on engines. This was done while adding capabilities like the F5 Heavy line and while expanding capacity, such as on our T6 line. Financially, we exceeded revenue targets for fiscal year 20, and we made a very positive contribution to the Navy Working Capital Fund. Our allocation of CARES funding that associated with COVID-19 related costs was critical, and we thank this committee for their support. In short, in spite of unprecedented challenges, fiscal year 20 was one of our best production years in recent memory. Most importantly, all fleet aircraft components and engine depot requirements were met, and all in-service repairs were expeditiously completed around the globe, as the Navy and the Marine Corps maintained a very high operational tempo. I could not be more proud of our FRCs and the resilience of our workforce. Speaking of our people, we continue to invest in their quality of life and training. First, in their working conditions. We're at historically low safety incidents. Next, in their digital competence, as we transform our production flow to electronic work packages. We're also continuing the National Apprenticeship Program with 270 apprentices currently on board. In general, the Department of the Navy continues to prioritize investments in our industrial capabilities and capacity. This is informed by the FRC Infrastructure Optimization Report, or FIOP, and that identifies sustainment requirements. It identifies capital investments for machinery and equipment and military construction needs. These investments are especially critical for repair of newer aircraft such as E-2D, H-53K, and F-35, as they require specialized paint, composite repair, advanced propulsion repair, and enhanced security. On the shop floors and production lines, we're building on the reforms that began for Super Hornet in fiscal year 19. We're replicating those across all type model series, including E-2D, H-60, P-8, and V-22 this year. We're also making progress on quality, significantly reducing quality escapes. In addition, we are establishing a data environment to connect all aspects of sustainment, including reliability, product integrity, and maintenance. In this regard, our repair capabilities and our supply chain effectiveness would be greatly enhanced by better access to technical data commonly available to commercial aviation operators and repair facilities. To close, Naval Aviation leadership looks forward to working with this subcommittee and the larger Congress to strengthen our organic infrastructure. We very much appreciate your continued support of our sailors and Marines, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Admiral. I see several of my colleagues from the committee are on now. We're going to break in 15 minutes with a recess and then return at 12:15 so that we could cast a vote on the current vote and vote on the last vote while we're still at the chamber. So heads up, 15 minutes from now, we'll break for half an hour. Okay, let's turn now to Lieutenant General Kirkland, Commander, Air Force Sustainment Center. General Kirkland.
Chairman Garamendi, Ranking Member Lamborn, distinguished members of the subcommittee, I appreciate the opportunity to update you on the Air Force's Organic Industrial Base. On behalf of our Acting Secretary, the Honorable John P. Roth, and our Chief of Staff, General Charles Q. Brown, thank you for your continued support and demonstrated commitment to our military, civilian airmen, families, and veterans. As you will attest in my written statement, the United States Air Force relies upon a strong organic industrial base to deliver air power in support of national defense strategy. We are proud of the capabilities our Air Force brings to the OIB. Our logistics enterprise effectively uses existing infrastructure across our 3 depots and 2 supply chain wings to provide cost-effective readiness for a range of weapon systems. Since my last update to the subcommittee in 2019, we accepted the first KC-46 Pegasus refueling aircraft for its initial depot maintenance at Tinker Air Force Base. We continue to expand F-35 Joint Strike Fighter aircraft depot maintenance at our Ogden Logistics Complex and F-35 avionics repair at Warner Robins in Middle Georgia. Looking ahead, our team is preparing for depot support to the B-21 Raider and ground-based strategic deterrent weapon system. We continue to address readiness and sustainment challenges driven by legacy weapon systems, an aging infrastructure footprint, and a federal workforce hiring process that is improving, but not yet conducive to supporting today's environment. As detailed in our Organic Industrial Base report, we're structuring our optimization plan over the next 20 years along a three-pronged investment strategy: keep up, catch up, and leap ahead. Through a combination of our capital investment program and new mission military construction, the Air Force has invested more than $2 billion during the previous 4 fiscal years to maintain and improve depot infrastructure and equipment. These service investments exceeded the minimum 6% threshold and were focused on the keep up requirements while targeting specific advanced technologies and concepts to modernize depot capacity and capability. We will continue to collaborate within the sustainment enterprise to incorporate, expand, and evolve use of advanced manufacturing processes and tools across our organic depots and benefit from predictive analytics. Responding to COVID-19 challenges highlighted the importance of understanding supply chain risks to depot operations and mission readiness. Over the past year, we relied on our supply chain management wing's ability to detect and forecast supplier impacts, allowing us to pursue alternate sources and make risk-informed depot prioritization decisions. Our initial response to COVID used a combination of intense safety mitigations, targeted telework, and placing high-risk personnel on weather and safety administrative leave. To meet production requirements, however, we began a return to full capacity of mission central employees in May and completed that by July. We've seen a positive trend in our workforce demographics. The current age of the Air Force Sustainment Center workforce is 44.5 years. This is down 1 year in age from 2018 and is a solid 3 years lower than the overall Air Force civilian employee average. Looking at STEM workforce, our software enterprise, which now comprises 4,600 personnel, ranges from 39 years old to 42 years old average across our 3 air logistics complexes. As we continue to respond to the ongoing pandemic, our top priority remains the health and safety of our workforce while balancing mission readiness. Unsurprisingly, COVID aggravated a variety of ongoing challenges with depot production across our enterprise. We continue to institutionalize new workplace arrangements to protect our workforce. Our union teammates have been a strong partner on this journey. Regarding civilian workforce hiring and development, we greatly benefit from the tools provided by direct and expedited hiring authorities to stay competitive with our defense industry peers. Thank you for providing these authorities and your consideration to make them permanent. In every instance of crisis, the Defense Organic Industrial Base provides solutions to anticipated demands. The Air Force will continue to need Congress's help with investments to foster for increasingly sophisticated and contested battle space. Our Chief of Staff has made clear, we either accelerate change or lose. Consistent, reliable, and predictable funding is key to sustaining Air Force readiness and safety, and to guarantee our service's ability to fly, fight, and win. Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, General Kirkland. We now turn to Major General Joseph Schrader, Commanding General, Marine Corps Logistics Command. General Schrader.
Sir, good morning. Chairman Garamendi, Ranking Member Lamborn, and distinguished members of this subcommittee. I appreciate the opportunity to provide you an update on our efforts to modernize the Marine Corps' organic industrial base. In November 2019, I shared with this subcommittee the Marine Corps' plan to modernize its organic industrial base. The plan is comprised of 3 phases and is executed over a 25-year period. It calls for a combination of improvements to the existing manufacturing processes, introduces new technologies, and adds new facilities and infrastructure. To date, we have completed 3 of the first phase major military construction projects. These state-of-the-art facilities provide much-needed combat vehicle storage and capacity, which is critical OIB infrastructure. Another critical component of our modernization effort is naval logistics integration. Initiatives such as our ongoing migration of our Navy Working Capital Fund activities to the Navy Enterprise Resource Planning System and industrial supply integration with the Defense Logistics Agency are examples of such joint force enabling efforts. Also, as a DoD selected 5G test site, we are working with OSD to develop 5G enabled smart warehouse technologies such as handheld scanners, optical character recognition, passive RFID, and robotics. This state-of-the-art technology vastly improves our supply chain efficiency, auditability, and support to the Fleet Marine Force. Underpinning these efforts is our smart application of operations and maintenance funding. Logistics Command optimizes the Marine Corps' return on these funds by deliberately planning against known and forecasted Fleet Marine Force ground equipment readiness requirements. We identify the most efficient and effective depot sources of repair, while also closely managing our Title X core logistics and Depot 50/50 requirements. Your support in funding these projects, as well as our equipment maintenance priorities, is much appreciated and brings us closer to accomplishing our modernization goals. On the energy front, I want to briefly share with the subcommittee that the Marine Corps Logistics Base here in Albany has made great strides in its plan to become the first installation in Marine Corps history to achieve net zero renewable versus traditional energy usage. Through innovative technology applications such as geothermal heat pumps, borehole thermal technologies, and converting landfill methane gas to energy, the base's roadmap to net zero and energy resiliency program is nearly completed. As a result, we expect to save over $4 million per year beginning next year and become less dependent on the commercial power grid. Looking forward, we've begun a study aimed specifically at aligning all of these current modernization efforts with our Commandant's planning guidance, priorities, and our Force Design 2030 efforts. This study is on pace to inform our fiscal year 23 and 24 budget cycles, and we anticipate it will lead us to refine the OIB's key lines of effort to better support the Fleet Marine Force well into the 21st century. Regarding our workforce, the 2018 National Defense Strategy rightly identifies recruiting, development, and retention of a highly qualified workforce as essential for warfighting success. Accordingly, we've implemented a strategic plan with 6 goals. These goals are hiring the right people, providing the best training, talent management, improving communications, maintaining a professional work environment, and retention. Also, I mentioned in the past, we are very grateful to the Congress for the direct hiring authorities. These authorities have enabled us to compete on par with the private sector to quickly hire the most talented people our communities have to offer. With respect to COVID-19, we continue to ensure mission accomplishment while protecting our people from the virus. Although we are still seeing reports of new cases within our surrounding communities, the overall number of cases continues on a downward trend. We continue to maximize remote and telework arrangements and enforce strict adherence to guidelines set forth by the CDC and higher headquarters. We are actively also working with and are very thankful for the great support we've received from the naval and community hospitals across our regions. In conclusion, sir, I want to thank you again. I want to thank the subcommittee for its continued support and for the opportunity to testify on this important topic. And I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, General. As promised, in about 5 minutes, we're going to recess for a half an hour. That'll allow the members to catch the current vote, the end of the current vote, and the beginning of the last vote. We'll return no later than 12:15 to recommence the hearing. I'm going to take just a few moments to lay out a couple of questions. I don't expect to get a response because we won't have time. First of all, I want to thank all of the services and particularly the leadership for staying on these issues. This committee is very, very concerned about the organic industrial base, that over the years it's been allowed to atrophy, to age out, and do the very best they could with old facilities, old capital equipment, and in many cases, old technologies to maintain the equipment that the services needed. We're now in a modernization program for all of the services. And as our colleagues on the other subcommittees go about the business of acquiring the new equipment, I want to make sure that this subcommittee is fully aware and that the services are prepared to service that new equipment. I see Joe Courtney just stepped off for a few moments, but he likes to be called 2 or 4 sub Joe. Fine. Let's see what you're going to do. How is the Navy going to repair and maintain those new Columbia-class submarines? Similarly with the Air Force and the Army and the Marine Corps, substantial changes are in place. I want to make sure that all of you in each of your responsibilities are preparing for the future. And so as we go forward, our professional staff will be querying you on how you will be addressing the new pieces of equipment, the repair and maintenance of that equipment. Secondly, I want to make sure that you are utilizing big data in anticipation of what needs to be repaired. So the analysis of past data, of repairs that have been made, using that information and then continuing to gather information ahead of the equipment coming into the depot so that you know what is going to be repaired. I'm calling this the Big Data AI initiative. I've talked to all of you about this. Hopefully that will allow you to be more efficient. Thirdly, we need to know well ahead of time. You've talked about 20-year plans, 30-year plans in the case of one of you. That's all well and good. I'm operating, well, all of the members on this committee operate on a 2-year cycle. And I guarantee you, we're already thinking about the next 18 months and planning for the next 18 months. We'll give you a little longer than that. So I'd really like to know what you're going to do over the next 5 years so that we can look at the MILCON as well as the O&M operations. It is our intent that you have the resources necessary to move out the old equipment that is no longer effective or efficient. The new facilities, I remember 2 years ago going to Tinker and observing a whole lot of blue tarps inside the building, presumably either to catch flies or rain. I suspect it was about rain. So, and that's not only an Air Force issue, I'm sure it's across the board. So I want those facilities modernized, and I want to know how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and how much money you need to do it. I'm here to fight for you, but I need to know what you need so that we can take on the rest of the subcommittees and the Appropriations Committee and make sure that you have the money you need to modernize and to make sure your facilities are in place. So these are the issues that are out there. I don't expect an answer now, but I can assure you that the professional staff and me and my colleagues will be querying you on a rather regular basis as to the outcome and where you're headed with that. So we're now at 11:46. I am going to recess. I'm going to recess for 30 minutes, time for the members to vote and to come back, and we'll restart at precisely 12:15. And so this meeting is now in recess. Gentlemen, you can get your answers together. Members, get your questions together, get your votes in. We'll recommence in 1/2 hour. Thank you very much.